The goal of spiritual practice in non-dual Kashmir Saivism isn't to become something new. It's to recognize what you already are, your own Shiva nature. And in order to recognize yourself, reason, meditation, inquiry, all this matters. But none of it gets you all the way there. There is a point where knowledge runs out and faith has to take over. Not faith against reason, but faith picking up where reason simply stops reaching. You see, this is where Abhinav Gupta gets genuinely interesting. Abhinav Gupta doesn't treat ignorance or jnana as some passive gap in information, like some mistake you could correct with better facts. For him, it's something stranger. Ignorance is kind of a cosmic play, Leela, that consciousness itself performs. Infinite consciousness, Paramashiva, freely contracts, pulls its own limitless nature. That contraction has a name, Purusha Ajnana. And this Purusha Ajnana happens before the individual intellect, before the individual mind exists, before there is even a you to start asking who you are. Only later does the Buddhi Jnana shows up. This is the more familiar kind of ignorance. Under the pull of Maya and Karma, you start identifying with things that passes through you. Thoughts, memories, roles, a story about who you are. That is ignorance. That is Buddha Jnana. And out of that identification, the Ahamkara, the ego is formed. And once there is an ego, there is a split. A knower over here and something known out there, this subject and object. But Kashmiri Saivism doesn't treat that split as final or primordial, like someone like Rene Descartes did. Rather, it says the split is laid on top of something that was never actually divided, this underlying unity. And this is exactly where this distinction matters. You see, reason and study and effort can do a lot of work on the layer of Buddha. They can genuinely dissolve intellectual confusion. They can sharpen the mind, clear things up. What they can't do is touch the root, this bottom layer. Because if the deepest ignorance, the Purusha Jnana, sits even prior to the intellectual ignorance, no amount of thinking or reason will fully undo it. And if the limitation belongs to finitude itself, to the fact of being a finite person at all, then no finite effort, however sincere, is going to be enough to reach the infinite. It's a bit like trying to jump over your own shadow. Try it. Futile. But it doesn't make the individual effort pointless. If anything, it's the opposite. That's exactly what makes the individual effort sacred. Reason still matters, practice still matters, personal effort still matters. They just don't manufacture the realization, they prepare the ground for it. And that's precisely where anugraha, grace, has to enter as the thing that completes what efforts on its own was never going to finish. So once reason has gone as far as reason goes, and effort has gone as far as effort goes, what's left for the seeker to do? Well, stay open, let go, wait. You see, we can only polish the mirror. We can't create the actual sun. The light was always the sun's light to begin with. With reason and intellect and personal effort, only mind can be purified. What happens next has to do with grace. The French philosopher Georges Bataille, which has nothing to do with Hinduism or Kashmir Saivism, I was reading his book, The Inner Experience, and he writes something like this, and I paraphrase. He says, the sole truth of man, glimpsed at last, is to be in supplication without response. Supplication without response. You see, because from where the seeker stands, that's exactly what it feels like. You prepare, you surrender, and you wait. There is no guarantee, no answer echoing back to confirm any of it. And yet, according to Abhinav Gupta, it's in that very openness that Anugraha dawns. Consciousness recognizes itself as Shiva.